Hello. I was born in Puyallup, Washington. I was raised there. Had a very normal suburban upbringing. I had two very loving parents, a brother 2.5 years older than me that liked to pick on me, as older brothers do. I went to Puyallup Public Schools my whole life. I was kind of with the same cohort of friends all the way through high school. I was very involved in sports, predominantly gymnastics and track. And I had quite a bit of performance anxiety associated with that and also with school. And I don't think, actually, I know it wasn't anything my parents put on me, but it was, I think, mostly from inside me. And I've continued with that through most of my life. But we'll get to the struggles later. So after high school, I went to Seattle Pacific University and had a really great experience there. It was really comfortable for me, and my high school boyfriend was also there, so that was really comfortable. But towards the end of my freshman year, I kind of started to get uncomfortable with being comfortable, and I broke up with my boyfriend, and I, that week, signed up to climb Mount Tahoma and also study abroad in South Africa, which was something I had dreamt of for quite a while. So it was kind of like a breaking free experience for me, and I did both those things. And then my junior year, I transferred to Arizona State University, which was insane, going from a private Christian school to a very large state school who's known for its parties. So I actually followed a guy there, and some people think, oh, that was a mistake, and because he dumped me 2 months later, and I was heartbroken, but in retrospect, I don't really believe in mistakes because it's kind of set up the rest of my life. I got really involved during that time. I was really bummed, but I got involved with a group of Somali refugees living in Phoenix, and that really stirred my heart up, and I spent most of my afternoons there and just supporting the kids. And during that time, I was also going to school to become a teacher, and I met my current husband in that program. And so when we graduated from ASU, we ended up getting teaching jobs in the community that our Somali refugee friends lived. And it was kind of fell into my lap. When I met my husband, I told him, I want to move to Africa as soon as I graduate. I'm getting out of here. And he was on board. So these jobs kind of fell into our lap. We're like, well, it's kind of close to Africa. Like, there's lots of Africans at the school, so we'll stick it out for a while. And we did. And then a year and a half later, I got accepted to the University of Cape Town. And so we packed our bags and we moved all of our stuff from from Arizona to my parents' garage in Puyallup. They were really happy about that. And we were off to South Africa, and we lived in Cape Town for a year, and I did recorded oral histories of Somali refugee living in Cape Town. And I don't know how much you guys know about South Africa, but there's quite a bit of prejudice, xenophobia towards other Africans living in South Africa. And that tends to be a place where a lot of Africans go when their country is in strife. So it was a really intense time, and heard a lot of really hard stories about women losing their children as they fled Somalia, being killed, watching their children be killed, and so that really impacted me a lot. And then that year I also started running a lot, like hours and hours and hours, and got really involved in the ultra running community, and was fortunate enough to live at the base of Table Mountain and run off kind of all that sad energy from my stories that I was recording on the mountain. And then after Cape Town, we ran out of money because we lived really well in South Africa, and we went on a lot of wine tours. So we were like, oh boy. So we moved to South Korea to earn money, and we taught there for a year. And that was another great experience. Also a little bit lonely because I didn't speak Korean, and I had one friend, and my husband, of course. So I obviously became very close with that one friend over the year. And then after our time was up, our contracts ended. We had saved some money, enough to travel and come home and not have to live with my parents forever. So we bummed around Asia and and stayed in really scummy places and traveled in India and fought off rats and really enjoyed that. And we moved to Tacoma 3 years ago almost. It'll be 3 years ago Thanksgiving. And in 2013, I had my first baby, a little boy, Leaf, and that has kind of obviously changed my life for the better. It's my favorite part about my life so far. And we bought a house on the hilltop in 2013 also, and we are building a little urban homestead there, and so we have adopted some goats and some chickens and a dog and turned our yard into a crazy garden. The neighbors, I think, all get a kick out of it, but there are also a lot of like-minded neighbors, so that's been great. Only one complaint about the goats, and thankfully I knew the city guy that came to investigate, so it all worked out. And the part I love about my life right now is obviously being a mama, but also we bought a house that was way too big for our family so that we could be open to other people. So we are currently hosting 2 students, one from Vietnam, one from Japan, and we also host travelers as they're passing through Tacoma. A lot of people come to Tacoma, which is pretty cool. We've had a couple British people in the last week come, so
my goodness. Wow. Impressive. Let's give her a round of applause. My goodness. So this next question does not even seem fair to ask you, given all that you have experienced in the short amount of time that you've been on this earth. But if you had to pick just one person, one mentor that has had the most or the best profound impact upon you, Melissa, what or who would it be?
It's hands down my mom. She has given me. She's really different than me. She's like a 5-star hotel type of gal, and I'm a not showering for a couple weeks camping type of gal. She doesn't really like, to be in cold water, and I like to jump in oceans. So, but she has given me the freedom to be who I wanted to be. So she didn't try and mold me into herself. She always supported my crazy ideas and, paid money for me to move my life to Arizona for a boy or to go travel to South Africa for undergraduate studies. And so
incredible. Yeah. I got to meet her mom back in the green room, and they look like sisters. It's unbelievable. So you mentioned things like rats, which I'm thinking, oh, well, that would be a negative bump for me. But when you think about the negative bump in your life that you just almost didn't make it over, what was it and what got you through it?
Yeah, so I mentioned anxiety performance and kind of this just anxiety in general as a kid. And in high school, I think also stemming from gymnastics, I struggled with an eating disorder through a lot of high school and college, and it seemed pretty impossible. I thought I'm going to hate food forever. It's going to be daunting over me. But I had a lot of support. Again, my parents were fantastic and got me professional help. And also, I kind of became an expert in wellness. And I said, okay, I'm going to put food in its place. And I became a vegetarian and then a vegan, and felt a lot of freedom in eating a really, really healthy plant-based diet. And also, long-distance running has allowed me to let go of a lot of the anxiety and sadness, depression that crept into my life. Wow. Yay for endorphins.
Fabulous. Oh my goodness. Yeah, that is just incredible self-actualization going on in what you just said. So for people who are listening out there who maybe are thinking, I want to do what she's done, or maybe you've touched a chord with them and they're saying, there's some things out there that I'm struggling with that were just mentioned in her story. What advice do you give them in terms of how do they find nurturing?
I think the most important thing to do with your life is to love what you do or do something new. So my dad is a great example. He just retired from 30 years of teaching in Tacoma because he was burnt out and he wasn't happy, and he said, I need to do something new. So now he's taking care of his grandbabies and helping me with projects. And for me, I was a teacher, and I knew I didn't want to be in that in the classroom I wanted to be teaching and learning outside of the classroom. And so I worked as a nanny, so I still got to nurture, and I got to go running with the kids in the stroller. And so yeah, I know I took a pay cut, but I love my life. So
Melissa, thank you so much for sharing your story. Outstanding.